Tonight is your night. My name is Lehman Wall. I work for AQHA, and it is my sincere pleasure to be your MC for the rest of the evening. Tonight, we will pay tribute to 9 individuals. These individuals share the passion that we all have for the American quarter horse. Their determination, your determination, has helped shape this breed as we know it today. Let's get to it. It is my honor to introduce your 50-year breeders for 2014. We begin with Dr. R.M. Christensen. He owes his start in the American quarter horse breeding business to his quarter horse breeding forefathers in his home state of South Dakota. He attributes his start in the equine industry to his predecessors and is always quick to give credit to his peers, his AQHA judges, directors, the officers, and trainers from the business that he loves for giving him the longevity in this industry. Please welcome our good friend and cumulative breeder, Dr. Christensen from Hamburg, South Dakota.
I've already dropped my notes, so I'm off to a good start. This is a little bit about when at the age of about 28, I was graduating from Iowa State, and I'd been in the military. Went to college 4 years, the military 2 years, and back to 4 years of vet school. And in the spring of that year, they took us in to write a 500-word theme in the English class to pass. If you made 5 punctuation things or misspelled words, you were out and had to take it over again to graduate. But fortunately, I passed, so here I am. I think this is a very great honor. I've been associated with so many wonderful people in the horse industry. I'm getting a little where I can't remember everything, and I retired from veterinary medicine. I have a little muscle degenerative disease. That's why I'm in this chair, but most every day I get out in my pickup and get some helper guys, and we do a little bit of work around the farm a little bit. My father came from Denmark in 1910. My mother came in 1912 when she was 17 years old to help her sister in Omaha, Nebraska. And my father and 5 of his brothers came to America. One ended up in Connecticut, but in 1918 they moved to South Dakota, and that's where I was born, out about 50 miles east of the Big Bend Dam on the Missouri River. And it's kind of, we always said it where ranch country started. It all kind of turned to grass right there. And so I wanted in the worst way to be a cowboy after I watched Gene Autry and Roy Rogers and all those kinds of movies. And so, but luckily my father loved draft horses, and he had a number of them, and along with those saddle horses and the early horses we had one named Spot. She was at Appaloosa, but he took her to a friend of ours, Louis Thompson, about 20 miles west of there, out in the grass country, and bred that to remount stallions. So I guess I might have been learning about the early quarter horses and didn't know a thing about it then. But there were some great people that were my mentors. There was a Dr. Roscoe Dean and his brother Harold Dean and his cousin Powell was his name, but they all brought quarter horses into the country. And after my first year of college, I spent a lot of time in the equine department there and read some of the stallion books. And by golly, a sale come up in Aberdeen. I went up there, and National Director Lawrence DeHaan was there, helped me pick out a mare by the name of Honey Spark, a 2-year-old mare, and they brought truckloads of horses up from Texas to get us pilgrims up there. But anyway, I got a nice one. He helped me pick one out, and her name was Honey Spark, and if I recall, she was about a number of 51,000. and I still have my membership card from 1955 and several more of them. And fortunate to meet a lot of horse people, and I'd have to thank all of them. One of them was an gentleman by the name of Art Reeves, and he came from Texas and into Colorado and out there, and he knew all the good old boys down here. And he had some bartender horses and one by the name of Roan Bar, and he had Tom Baker. And we saw an ad in the Quarter Horse Journal that Mary Ann Parrish down at Lubbock had a stallion by Little Tom B. by King that was a half-brother to Tom Baker, and I'd bought a bunch of Tom Baker mares and Roan Bar mares, so I told my wife we had to slip down there and look at this horse. I needed to take Art Reeves down there. And anyway, we did buy the horse. His name was Stagebird Tom. And we brought him home, and I failed to mention it to my wife. But I and Art were showing the horses, and we'd gone up to Minnesota and showed him, and then went out to the Crow Creek Indian reservations to the Kniplings had a show, and he ended up being reserve grand champion and winning the 3-year-old class the first day. And the next day we went to Chamberlain, and he was 6th out in the class of 3-year-olds, so I didn't know where we were at. But we get a monthly newspaper, and of course my wife never read that, but she was wanting a lamp, and I said we didn't have the money for it. And so I came home one day, and she had a new lamp, and there was this newspaper from the thing, Stagebird Tom, reserve grand champion at Gan Valley. So that's kind of the way my horse business is went. But I've been fortunate to have a lot of stallions, and there were 12 or 13 guys in the quarter horse business around Sioux Falls, and they got me to come to a meeting, and next thing I knew, I was opening doors in a blizzard to let people in the first year. That was 67. The next year they said, you'd make a good manager for the quarter horse show. And naively I said, okay. And so I went on from there and did it for the winter show and for the Sioux Empire Fair, and started gathering my horses, but I've been helping with those shows, either manager or arranging for it. And one year I had 13 of them, and I sat there, and the legends of the quarter horse showing people came to see me at Sioux Falls. And I made so many friends over the years, and I had a great time. But I've had some great stallions. I raised some nice horses, and have some qualify for I didn't qualify them, but people qualified him for the World Show. One of them was a super horse contender. I had one that was a all-around horse in the national standings. I raised some horses that did quite well. And one of the favorite things, and I still have the letter in my dresser drawer, a postmaster here in South Dakota bought the first colt that I raised. And he sent me a 3-page letter, how much that horse had meant to him. And at the time, the horse was 28 years old. And most of my horses have gone to good homes. I've had people call from Ohio. They lost a colt to, they used to call it, what was it, X disease, that they were licking grease from the old machinery and died. She said, well, just send me another one like this one. And I said, no, you have to come and look at them. But anyway, we've had horses go to the World Show. We compete and contribute, have a great time, and go home and try harder. But my biggest thrill is to be a national director. I've met so many people from all over the world, and I've been asked to come down here to work on some committees, and I've been very well treated, and I have so many great friends, and I'm thankful for all of them and all of you, and I congratulate all you other honorees. They said 2 good stories and you're done. I don't know if I got those in, but I hope you enjoy the rest of your stay here, and congratulations.
Congratulations, Dr. Christensen. You said you may not remember that much about those horses, but I think you remember just fine. Presenting the trophy tonight is AQHA President Johnny Trotter.
Thank you, John. I asked my wife to come up here, but she said the horses was my deal. Then I asked her what she does, and she said, well, she baked cookies. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you still have the lamp. There you go. Congratulations, Dr. Christensen. Next, Bill Hill of Clay Falls, Oregon. Bill credits his dad, Lewis, with introducing him to horses, specifically the American Quarter Horse. And in a unique story, Bill purchased his first horse with his own money. Unfortunately, that was not the correct breed. Soon after, his father saw this was not an American Quarter Horse, made him take it back and get his money back. Bill never looked back after that point. He passed his love and his passion for the breed down to his children and his grandchildren. Please welcome Bill Hill.
Well, I don't know where to start, but I've been at it a long time. I guess I went to the Army when I got right out of high school, so I never got a chance to do much college, so I was in Chicago for a long time, and most of the time I was in there, well, anyway, was in the anti-aircraft protecting Chicago. And then I got one of the cooks went AWOL, so they brought me in to help them cook, and then they sent me to Kansas to go to cook school a little while. And so anyway, I was running around. I got one more time off when I got to be a cook, so I went running around. I found some roping arenas around Chicago, and so I talked to them about team roping, and they'd all hold up their hand, and they all say, "Look, I got all my fingers, we just calf rope." And so they didn't want to have any of that dally team roping, so I got a horse there and had a lot of fun. And so when I run into a fellow there that was rodeoing, and he got to be a horseshoer, and he got to have a little more time he'd shoe horses part of the day, and then he'd go rodeoing. So I thought that'd be the deal for me. So I went to Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo in California, and got to be a horseshoer, and I found out that I thought I didn't really know enough about shoeing horses just from the time I was there. So I found out about a fellow that was in Los Angeles, and he came from St. Louis, and he'd been shoeing horses since he was 9, and he was about close to 70. He could make any kind of a shoe you could think of, and I learned a lot about shoeing and horses in general. We shod for Jimmy Williams and some other real famous guys that had jumping horses, and we got a stable at Los Alamitas, and they had 4 world's champions in their barn, and so that kind of got me into the running horse thinking a little bit, along with the roping. And so anyway, I got a horse named Lucky Straya, and he was my lucky barn. We ran him a little bit and made a rope horse out of him. Then he died, so I went and got another horse, and his name was Orphan Lad. And we saw him running a good bit of places around, and so he ran in the first day at at Los Alamitos in a claiming race for 4,000, and so we claimed him, and boy, the people were really mad. And I had to happen to have a horse in the same race, and they wouldn't have took a lot of money for this horse. And he was good enough that he got invited and running the championship at Los Alamitos, so I've had a good bit of fun with that. And we ran a few other horses there. We raised a couple by this Lucky Straya horse, and they ran at Los Alamitos and won. And so anyway, then we kind of decided we had to start having a family, and it was a little harder to get that far away from home, and so we got more into cutting. I won 2 fraternities and in the non-pro, and placed in a lot of big opens, showed in the Super Stakes in Fort Worth, and so we got what kind of was hard to get cattle in our area in the summertime to train cutting horses, and we just cut it back to our original deal, roping. And so now I've got about 3 guys working with me, mostly for me, I guess now, and training roping horses from people all over the West Coast. We've had 3 different horses that we raised and trained that went to the National Finals Rodeo, so we've had a lot of fun with that. And then a lot of other real good horses that are out there in the rodeo arena. I've won big roping in Winnemucca to go to the U.S. Finals, been there several times. And I won one of the big ropings in California called the Chowchilla Stampede. And that was an 8 steer, and that was one of my thrills of a lifetime. And so anyway, I had 2 of our kids. Our oldest daughter, she won the all-around in the state of Oregon, and then our youngest son, he won the all-around, and then he went to the national finals and did real well on one of our good cutting horses. And we had some people walk up to us and say, "Boy, we want to come out and try that horse, and would you sell him?" And we offered to sell him, and we said, "Well, we'll take $35,000. They flew out there, and we got home in a few days, and they said, "Well, we'll take him," but we were prepared to pay $50,000, and this was 25, 30 years ago. So I said, "Well, that's fine. I hope he does good." So anyway, that's the way that story went. But anyway, we've had several good horses, and we have people calling regular, wanting us to train horses and ride them, and we feel like we've got a pretty good record with that. And my wife, she's been staying part of the thing, keeping all the papers straight on all these horses and the books and everything, and Shirley is my wife, and she had a brother that was really a good roper, and I roped with him some, and that's why I met her, and so we've had a pretty happy, good family, and our grandparents came there and started the homestead in 1886, and so I'm the 3rd generation, I guess you'd have to say, and we've got the 5 generations of us there now. So we've really had a lot of fun, a lot of good time with all our good quarter horses. And one of them, I got to just tell a real quick story. We were roping one day, and my grandson was working for us, and so he roped the calf, and they were team roping it, and he got off, he'd heeled it, and he got off to take off the rope of the head guy, and the horse was just standing there, and the calf started to run to the catch pen, and the horse we started it on cutting. It held that calf there for a good 2 minutes, just back and forth in our indoor arena. So anyway, we feel pretty good about that story, and we've got, probably could talk half the night on a lot of them, but that's about where I can end, I guess, and thank you. Appreciate the nice honor.
Congratulations, Bill. You get these 2 talking about team roping, we're going to be here a while. Congratulations, Bill. Dale W. Johnson II. began his quarter horse herd in 1959 when he saved enough money, along with the help of his dad, to buy 3 registered mares and 1 stallion. Today, Dale currently owns 15 mares and 2 stallions. He describes his ideal horse as 1,200 to 1,300 pounds, blue or red roan, with a lot of cow sense and a good, gentle disposition. Please welcome cumulative breeder Dale Johnson of Garvin, Oklahoma.
Well, when they called, I didn't know I was going to have to get up here and talk, or I probably wouldn't have come. I'm not much of a speaker. We've been in the cow business and horse business. My dad did, my grandpa and my great-grandpa was all in it, and it's nothing like a quarter horse, I don't think. If you're in the cow business, or, about any kind, just pleasure riding. But I started out as a kid, and my dad, he rodeoed and was a pretty good hand, and he liked Hancock horses. Of course, them Hancocks bucked a little, and they was hard on young kids anyway, But they've got it out of them. Them Blue Valentines was a totally different horse than they used to be. But I've been blessed. I've had a good life. The Lord gave me a good life, and I just thank Him for everything. And I want to thank all these people here tonight, the association and everything, for I know they put up with a lot from us sometimes on the color and stuff. Color blue or roan is a hard color to get sometimes right, But I thank each and every one of you, and I want to thank him again, and I appreciate everything y'all done for me. Thank you.
Congratulations, Dale. Yes, sir. Our next cumulative breeder is Theodore Lincoln, owner of Lincoln Farms of Freeland, Michigan. Theodore lists receiving the AQHA 50-Year Cumulative Breeder Award as his #1 achievement as a breeder. Theodore says that the American Quarter Horse has provided a balance and purpose to his life. In the 50 years that add up to this award, he has served as the Michigan Quarter Horse Association president in 1968 and 69, and as a director for that same association for 10 years. At 81 years, Theodore looks forward to the future of the industry because he says it offers opportunity for the discerning breeder and says that there is room for the quality small breeder. Please welcome Theodore Lincoln.
Thank you all. It's indeed an honor and a pleasure to be here. I'm thrilled and just so impressed with the gathering of the people. I've been blessed in my lifetime. I especially want to recognize my wife Sandy, Nicole, my daughter-in-law, and my son Dan. Please stand. Two other people I have to recognize. My father Floyd, now deceased, but my mother Dolly is 101.5 years of age. We kept telling her she had to live to 100 so we could make it to 105. The horse industry has been fantastic. I've enjoyed every bit of it. My folks got me my first horse when I was 7 years old, and I've never looked back. About the time I was 14, I had an opportunity to choose at a local horse show between a quarter horse and an Arabian. We were competing. I just had a little old cow pony at that time. I chose a quarter horse, and I've never been prouder. Fantastic choice I made. It's a fantastic organization. I tell you a quick little story, and I have yet to meet J. Benham Stewart, but I'm privileged to have had quite a bit of business done with Hank Wieskamp. I consider him a mentor. I sat with him in the stands at the World Show when he won the World Championship with Spanish Ray. A few years prior to that, I was out there, I was on a ski trip, and there was no snow in Colorado, so I went horse hunting and ended up at Hank's place, and we ended up becoming close friends with he and I and my father and I. And as a result, we ended up with several horses. But I noticed that J. Benham Stewart is in here, and Jay, Benham, would you stand up? There he is. He doesn't even know it because I've never met the man, but he was at Hank's place with his wife, and they were looking at horses. At the same time, one of the years that I was there, I bought several mares, and I bought a really good stud by Nick W. out of a spot cash mare. He bought Skip Tama. Long time back. He was down on the end. Oh, Hank was a peculiar individual. I can tell you stories about him. You didn't get on his place unless he liked you, so you had to establish the fact that he liked you first. But he would never introduce a customer, prospective customers. He says, oh, that's Benham Stewart down there. And I'm sure he went to him and he said, that's Lincoln up here. But anyway, the horse industry is fantastic. I love breeding them. I love showing them. I've been really privileged this year because I've won several reserve world championships. Now at my age, I'm relegated to showing at halter. My first performance horse came from the King Ranch, but I'm delighted to be able to, I've had 3 reserve world champion mares. I'm now showing a yearling gelding that I'm real proud of. We won the National Halter Futurity in Iowa just recently. We won the Breeders' Cup in Iowa. We won the Congress, and I skipped showing that gelding at the Congress today, an amateur yearling gelding, to be here with y'all. I surely don't regret it. But anyway, we look forward to the World. I'll see you all at the World. If you get a chance and you see us out there in Amateur Open, they're yearling gelding. He's coal black and you call him Kobe, but he's got 2 white socks. Look us up, say hi. I'll be the guy that'll be running around looking at all the horses and trying to judge them. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Theodore.
Thank you.
I finally met you.
Horse industry's a small world, folks. We could bottle up the history in this room tonight, it'd be amazing. Our next recipient's wife, Nadine, swears that horses are a genetic trait passed down on David Smith's side of the family, that all of their grandkids also got that gene. The family's history with horses began in the 1890s when David's grandfather, Willard Richard Smith, left his father's ranch in Tuba City, Arizona, with a band of horses headed to Utah to get married. One of the family's greatest achievements with their horses has been the ability to produce horses that fit the current public trends for the past 67 years and continue to meet the changing needs for their family and extended family. Please welcome cumulative breeder David Smith of Jerome, Idaho.
great privilege to be here tonight and share this with all of you. Like he just told you, my great-grandfather and my grandpa and my father were all big in the horse business. I guess that's who we owe it all to, is our ancestors. I'm not much on talking, so I'm not going to take a lot of your time, but my father did like match racing, and he did that a lot. A couple of his horses, he hauled them around. One of them, I don't believe, was ever outrun, and hit the fair circuits and any match race he could come up with. My older sister's here with me tonight. She used to ride the one horse a lot. Dad was very proud of her and his horses. I'm not going to take any more of your time, and I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
David, a lot of people in this room can sympathize and appreciate the emotion that you have for your family's heritage. Congratulations to you and those that came before you, sir. Benham Stewart of Glenwood, Georgia, started his breeding operation with 3 horses. 2 mares and a stallion from J.W. Bailey. Probably won't surprise anybody in the room that they were all Palominos. The Stewart's idea of a good horse is a pretty horse with balance, correctness of structure, athletic ability, and a great mind. The Stewarts are proud of their accomplishments and those of their children. They maintain that every generation gets better, whether you were talking about the horses or people. Please welcome cumulative breeder, Mr. Benham Stewart.
Well, sit back and relax, because this won't be short, probably. I'd like to first introduce my son, my daughter, my son-in-law, and my granddaughter, if y'all will stand up. They are my accomplishment, and my wife. Louise was not able to be here tonight. She doesn't like flying at all, and based on what happened to us in Fort Worth, I would have never gotten here if she'd been with us, because they said the plane had a problem, and then 4 hours later they pulled the same plane around, got us on it, and began to service the hydraulic fluid in the plane. So that's kind of the ride I had out here. So it's probably a good thing she didn't try to come this time. But she would like to be here. The other thing is, I would like to introduce, if the other people who are with me, I've got a kind of a contingent here of customers and friends. And I've got J.W. Bailey's daughter, and interestingly enough, she is now Davis, and she is part of the CS Ranch, and her husband Warren Davis are here. I've never met him, but I've had the privilege to meet him, but we were sharing some stories that probably don't need to be told here today about things that went on. Would y'all stand? All the rest of my family. We have a strong customer base, and first of all, I would like to say that I owe all of this, or Louise and I owe all of this to the Lord. We put him first in all that we do, and he has blessed us beyond belief. None of this would have been possible without our relationship with him and the great things that have happened. And it's just, it touches our lives every day, and it's been an interesting walk. But I just challenge any of you that are here, if you walk with him, you'll be amazed at the things that can happen to you and the blessings that can come to you. But I never would have been able to do this, and I look at this as the Lord gave me stewardship for a period of time. And at the best, I hope to be a good steward of what he's allowed me to be involved in. My family goes back 6 generations on this, and you just saw the 7th and the 8th generation get up a minute ago to own and operate Singing Pines Plantation in Glenwood, Georgia. It's basically a big timber facility. We raise pine timber and hardwood, and we also do a lot of farming. When I first started out, we had 100 brood sows, 200 head of cows, did a complete farming operation, and I decided I wanted to jump off into the horse breeding business, and so we kind of got involved in that area as well. My first time through here was 1963, and I went to an AQHA that was a storefront somewhere in downtown Amarillo, and there were either 3 or 4 people there in the office. I believe there were that many. But anyhow, we went in and talked to them, and I went on from there to Casa Grande, Arizona, and I stopped for a PHBA convention that was going on out there. I met Warren Shoemaker and a number of the then outstanding both quarter and Palomino breeders that lived in the New Mexico area. I also met a fellow by the name of O.H. Crew from Fort Worth, Texas, and met Jack Anderson, and it was a young Jack Anderson. He was just kind of getting started at that time, but that's where we started and where I came from. I had at one time an own son of Trigger. I was a Roy Rogers fan, Gene Autry and all the rest of them, but Roy was my fan, so I decided I wanted to try to breed the best quarter horse with Palomino color that we could breed, and so we went along doing that for a period of time. Went to Hank Wiescamp's, and I was looking for uniformity. And I would breed, and I'd get a good one year, might not get another good one out of that cross, and I said, there's got to be a better way to do this. There's got to be something out there. And I ended up going out and seeing Jack Anderson's horses, and there was some uniformity in them. And then I went to Bud Warren's place, and I really saw uniformity there. That was neat because I got to see all the horses in Jet Deck, Sugar Bars, Connie Red, Leo, the whole 9 yards there at his place, and that was a really good experience. And I'll tell you one of my stories in that. My wife was with me, and we were out there in November, and he was getting rid of all the stuff that he had there because breeding season was starting up, and he was breeding somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 mares a year, and he was trying to clean out every pen he had. And I thought that I needed a Sugar Bar stud, and the Sugar Bar studs were 3,500, and the fillies were 2,500, and he was trying to get rid of them, and my wife was walking around, and she comes up to me, and there's this little dun filly out there, and she said, Benham said, we need to buy that. And I said, honey, you can't raise Palominos out of duns. That's just not going to work because you're going to end up with a line back and everything. I said, that's not going to work. And so I found a sorrel stud there. Ended up buying him, bringing him home, and we kept him 2 or 3 years. And in that situation, it didn't turn out to be what I wanted or what I needed. And I managed to get out without losing anything, but I didn't gain anything either. But about 3 years later, my wife comes in, she drops an AQHA journal down in my lap. And here stands this big, gorgeous mare. She said, you remember this horse? I said, no, I don't remember that horse. She said, you remember that day at Bud Warren's? And I said, yeah, it was kind of co-ed. I could have bought her for $2,500. And so that just goes to show you who the horse breeder in the family is. And we went from there, went to Hank Wiescamp's, and you heard a little bit about that. Some of the Wiescamp stories won't vet for AQHA, so I'm not going to go there. But the other part of it is we were out there looking at horses and everything, and I had bought a horse from him by the name of Spanish Supreme. And that was the first stud that I bought off of him, and we were riding around. And if you've never been there, you wouldn't understand this, but when you went into a group of mares, if there were 25 mares in there, when you saw the first one, you could turn around and go back out, because all 25 of them looked exactly like the first one. There wouldn't be variation except for markings and color. Well, this was a pen of 25 mares we went in. Then we're riding around, and my wife points out, and he says, "That's Spanish's mother." And I just about crawled under the truck, because I knew if she was wrong, we could just leave. You'd have to understand Hank, but I mean, he was kind of tough to do business with anyhow, and I thought, man, I hope you hadn't made a mistake here. And of course, Hank asked her a lot of questions and tried to get her to change her mind on it. And when he got done with it, he said, "Yeah, that's right, that's the Spanish parade mare, and that's the mother." So anyhow, that's another story, and you can begin to see who the breeder in the family may be in all of this. But we've had a really good time in that. And then when I bought Skip Tomlin, I brought him home and I ran an ad. And this was in about 73, somewhere along in there, 74, I don't remember the exact date. But anyhow, we got home with him and everything. And I came home and there was a phone on there was a message on the answering service and there at the house, and I checked it out, and I yelled, I said, "Lee!" I said, "Warren Shoemaker called me on the telephone." Man, I thought something, this is just a great deal. It was because I was kind of a nobody in this deal. And I called him back, and I had asked him, I said, "You are the Warren Shoemaker in New Mexico with horses, aren't you?" And he said, yeah, I am. And he asked me, he said, "Son," he said, "does that horse look like his picture?" And I said, "Yes, sir, he does." He said, "How did you get him off the hill out there? Hank doesn't sell those kind of horses." And sure enough, he ended up coming to Georgia, and he was probably in his 80s then. Came to my house and went down there, and he said, "Son," said, just leave me alone with the horse here." And went in the stall with him. He sat there and looked at that horse for 2 or 3 hours and got up and came out, and he said, "I don't know how you got that horse, but said, that is one more good horse." And said, "Hank doesn't normally sell those kind, but he's the horse that really put me on the map." And he was a great, great mare, show mare and brood mare sire. He never sired a stud that I thought was stud quality, but he was sure enough a producer of show mares. He was a producer of show geldings, and he was a producer of brood mares. And I built my herd around that, and then ended up getting the Starpian horse, and now I have a pleasure bred horse that we use. And they're at a house called Zipleager, and he's in his 20s now, so I'm going to be looking for something else. But it's been an awesome ride. I appreciate AQHA for everything they've done. I've been an AQHA judge. I've been on stud book and registration committee, served in a lot of areas, and probably our biggest contribution in the breeding has been more to the Palomino end of the deal. I've won about everything you can win in that. And we had, I think, 18 world champions this last year at the Palomino World Show. Just had a great show, but the Lord has really blessed us, and I give him all the credit for all of this. We thank you.
Congratulations, Benham. Our first legacy breeder recipient of the evening is Gene Murphy. Gene got his start in the horse business in the early 1950s. He and his older brother Leo began starting ponies under saddle for a man named H.W. Craven. H.W. taught him an incredible amount about buying, selling, and trading horses. Gene and Leo were hungry to learn more about the horse business. They entered several local shows and began their showing career. Although the number of horses in Gene's pasture may have waned over the years, his love for the horses certainly has not. Please welcome Gene Murphy of Menlo, Iowa. While he's making his way up, I got to tell you a funny story. I was sitting at the table with Gene. I think Theodore actually owes his life because something about a sick horse, 2 a.m. in the morning, and somebody starving to death, and I believe Gene might have given Theodore his last hot dog, saved his life that morning, if I think the story was
20
right.
pounds later.
It was the best hot dog you ever had, Theodore.
Right.
I don't have much to say. I just started out, and Leo and I as kids, we just kind of had farm horses. Rode Dad's team. Dad didn't know that. So we'd ride him when he was gone. And then we kind of gradually went into town and started riding horses for Harold Craven and their ponies, showing them a little bit. And Harold, he kind of showed us how to show. We went to a few local shows. Then got a little older, a little bigger, and Leo and I went down Lawrence and bought that colt and gave $41 for it. And we had him in the back of the Dad's pickup. Leo was 15, I was 13. We'd go down the back roads, get down there. And the colt, he'd jump out of the back, he'd jump out of the pickup. So Leo got in the back and held him while I drove home. I never drove before. I never drove a pickup. That colt and Leo had quite a ride. And then we got a little older and started riding horses for different people. We'd ride anything that had hair on it. But Leo, he was a little more of a little better rough stock rider than I was. We'd get on a couple colts and go to riding, and first thing you know, I was bucked off. He'd still be riding. But at least he could go catch my horse because I was afoot. And then we just kind of got into the quarter horse thing more, and we've had just all kinds. We've had the appies and the paints and the quarters, but every time we turn around, we still have the quarters. They were the best deal to have around. I said one time, I probably made more money on the paints and the appies because I sold them, because I didn't like them. I'd get a really good quarter horse, and I should sell it, but I'd keep it because it was a good one. And it just kind of graduated over the years. And then I kind of got into the racehorse thing a little bit. But I'm kind of a halter horse guy at heart. But them halter horses, a lot of them don't ride very good. But maybe they didn't get the chance. But I always thought that, horse guy got to be pretty to ride him. But you got to have a little talent. And so you just ride them with whatever talent they happen to have. If they can do whatever they do, they do. Just like football players and basketball players and baseball players. Whatever talent they got, that's what they do. But anyway, I've enjoyed the horse thing over the years. I've made a little money on the horses over the years a little bit. But it's been a good deal for me. And I want to thank AQHA for having us down here. My brother came down, and my family back here. I got a son and a couple daughters. son-in-law, my other brother back there. Back in Iowa, we call that the whole family came. But thank you very much.
Congratulations, Gene. Lloyd Turner of Mortlock, Saskatchewan, said his greatest achievement as a breeder is to see and hear from folks riding and competing on American quarter horses that they have bred. Horses who have won AQHA Registers of Merit, money in NCHA and NRCHA competition, as well as cutting, reining, rodeo, and ranch horse titles. Lloyd could not think of what his life would be like without horses. The people he has met from all over the country at AQHA events have become his lifelong friends. Please welcome to the stage legacy breeder Lloyd Turner.
I want to thank everybody in AQHA for having us come down here and having these awards and honors and everything. And I guess this time we're in tonight is my dad's. He's the one that got us going in the quarter horses. And we were very lucky, the very first mare we ever bought. We trained ourselves and everything, and she was just very trainable because we did know a lot then, and Mary just kind of trained herself and done everything, and then it just slowly evolved. We got mares and studs and started raising horses, and probably the cornerstone of our breeding was a stud we bought from Mel Chartier, Fairhaven Farms, Michigan. His name was Dry Dock Freedom, and we had a lot. You go anywhere in Western Canada for a few years there, and they were all over in the reining pens and a lot. Had great success, and that made you feel, you know, you're sitting there and watching somebody ride your horse and somebody wanting what you're breeding. And so anyhow, I never believed that it would 50 years, but I guess it happened and everything. And I'd like to thank my wife for being very supportive and everything. And she won a few awards in the Saskatchewan Cutting Horse Association with a horse that I've raised. I've owned every horse in the bottom side of a pedigree and the sire. And there's, you know, nothing better than seeing, you know, something like that. And I guess Barry and Elaine Good are with us. They come down on the trip, and we own a stallion together named LNC, Smart Little Dooley, which is a full brother to One Ton Dooley, which was a reserve champion in the NCHA fraternity. And we got another young Vitaly stud coming up. And I guess we'll keep breeding as long as we can. And I want to thank everybody, and it was great. Thank you.
Congratulations, Lloyd. Our final legacy breeder of the evening is the late Elden White of Sulphur Springs, Texas. Teresa Weatherford, Eldon's daughter, says the greatest achievement her dad had with American quarter horses was all of the people he met across the world. Eldon sold all across the continental United States, as well as Hawaii, Canada, Mexico, Brazil, and Argentina. He was an honest and straightforward man. Eldon always believed that the ideal horse was the one with a good mind and good conformation. A good American quarter horse would be gentle enough for every small child, but catty enough to use on cattle. Representing Eldon this evening is his son, Gerald White. And joining is Teresa Weatherford.
Since this is a family operation, I thought I'd just bring part of the family up here, and there's two I couldn't get up here. This is my sister Martha. This is my sister Martha. This is my sister Teresa, and Teresa actually is the ramrod of the business now since my father passed away. And back at the table, I'll have them to stand is my wife and my son. My wife Pam and my son James. And it's really an honor, privilege to accept this award tonight on the behalf of my late father, Mr. Elden White, and the entire White family. My father loved quarter horses. He loved meeting people and talking with people about the quarter horses. He was always honest and straightforward with his customers because he, more than anything, wanted to satisfy customers. He had many repeat customers. To give you an example of that, a recently retired couple came by the farm one day and explained that they bought a little place out in the country and fenced in a little acreage, and they wanted to get them a horse. And Dad took them out and showed them the horses, spent some time with them, and they looked and they left and came back a couple of days later, and they looked and they left, and third time they came back, they decided on a horse. They had no way to transport it, so Dad took it to the ranch for them. Well, about the next afternoon, I believe it was, this fella called and he said, you're going to have to come get this horse. My father said, oh, what's the problem? He says, well, we can see the horse from just about any room in the house out the windows. And he says, it's just walking up and down the fence and around and looking around, and says, if I have to watch it much longer, you know, I don't know. And Dad said, well, said that's no problem. Said it's just because it's in a strange place, and you give him another day or two, he'll be all right. Dad said, the fella said, or Dad said, no, the fella said, you don't understand, Mr. White. He said, if I have to look at this any longer, I'm going to have a nervous breakdown. So Dad went and picked the horse up and gave him his money back. But Dad loved horses. It was all for the love of the horse. It started out as a hobby and actually grew into a business rather quickly. But it never, the pleasurable experience never left. It was for the love of the horse. I keep hearing the same thing from most breeders, and I know that it was true with Dad. Now, Dad, he liked horses, but he didn't like school very well. He quit school in the 3rd grade. But he could read. He was an average reader, and he'd get that quarter horse journal at night and put him on some glasses, and he'd read that thing way past his bedtime. Now, he had some good teeth. shows he liked to watch, but that TV went off when he got that Quarter Horse Journal. Now, he got hurt his share of the time. Seemed like more than his share of the times working with the horses. And I got a call one afternoon from a friend of his and says, you might want to come over here. I said, Mr. White's been kicked. And said, he's hurt. So I rushed over to check on him, and when I got there was a circle of his friends out in the ring. And I kind of pushed through him to check him out, and he was laying there on the ground on his back smoking a Camel cigarette. He said, get me in the house. And I said, I'm not going to do it. I said, you just took out a policy that pays for an ambulance. And I said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call an ambulance. He said, don't you dare. I said, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So I went to the house to call for an ambulance. But before I could get an ambulance called, he got two of his buddies to carry him in the house and set him in his rocking chair. But that man did love his horses, and he raised good horses. He raised horses that were suitable for about anything you want to do. Every event, working, pleasure. Some people even bought them for children, and they all had good luck with them that I know about. We currently have a horse working on Dixie Stampede, Dolly Parton's Dixie Stampede in Branson, Missouri. So that American Quarter Horse, it's just a real good all-around horse in our opinion. The White family continues. My dad passed away in August of 2001, but the White family continues raising fine American Quarter horses. And if you're ever in the northeast Texas area around Sulphur Springs, we ask you to drop in and see us. The talk may just turn to horses if you do. So again, I'd like to thank the American Quarter Horse Association for this award. And thank everyone here. Thank you.
Congratulations, Gerald, Teresa. We appreciate you being here to represent your father's legacy. Let's give one more round of applause for all of our cumulative and legacy breeders. Thank you, Johnny, for your help presenting the awards tonight. Appreciate that, sir. Would also like to thank, before we conclude, I'd like to thank all of the AQHA employees, staff that have helped make this event possible. And many of you have talked to our employees on the phone or have been through the building and have got to meet those employees in person. And I tell you, the work that goes on behind the scenes from all of our people, we could not get an event like this done without the help of so many people. So let's give all the staff a round of applause one time. As a reminder, the Legacy Breeder Stories will be featured in the January 2015 edition of the American Quarter Horse Journal. The Cumulative Breeder Stories will appear in the February edition. We appreciate all of you for being here this evening, sharing your stories about your horses, about your families, about your heritage. It means a lot to all of us to be able to do it. here inside the American Quarter Horse Hall of Fame and Museum. Have a safe trip home, and let's look forward to next year's foal crop. Good job.